So on the drain pan, and you guys go over there, and I know you get multiple calls.
Yeah.
And it's leaking again. It's
Yeah.
leaking again. It's leaking again, right? Because the line's coming out on this end of the outlet, but it keeps filling up down here,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So unless you've ever looked, that you wouldn't know. Inside, down here on the insides of these, if you guys will look, do y'all see the hole here?
Yeah.
And do y'all see the hole here?
Okay.
You see them slots?
Yeah.
That's where the water runs down from the coil and gets down in there. So if you've got water trapped on one end and you've only got one drain line and it can't get out and the water keeps filling up on this end, the reason for it is because these are stopped up.
Okay.
So, simple solution. Remember how you used to break into cars?
No, never break.
How about when you locked your keys in the car? I was kidding. I was going to see if you fell for that or like
Got you on camera saying
that. I was going to see if you would fall. We had a little fun too as we go. So, clothes hanger.
Okay.
Just take a regular clothes hanger or a long piece of something stiff wire that you can get. And I know these things are above your head and it's hard to see what you're doing, but you can feel in order to get that in there and get it started. And then just run it all the way down to the other end and then run it back and forth and take a shop vac. Put the shop vac on the opposite end of the water. Opposite end. That way you're pulling all of that water through there, cleaning that trough as you go. If you just come down here and suck all the water out,
Yes, you're gonna get the same problem.
you're going to have the same problem.
It's not gonna clean.
Yeah. So use the water you have, use the water you've got to while you're rotting that out, that trough out before it can
Okay.
flow, to pull the water through with the shop vac
Okay.
to clean it. And that generally fixes it most of the time.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you're going to have situations to where your pans are rusted out, or you know, another thing to look and to watch for is on your mounting bolts. A lot of times what people don't see is they go in there and they check everything on that for the fan, but what they haven't looked at is your mounting bolts falling down on this side. You know, because over time, wear and tear, things start coming loose. The vibration of this and everything, and it comes down, right? So it'll come down on this side, and you'll never look at that. You'll be up there fighting it, and you'll fight it, and you'll fight it, and you'll fight it. So first thing, make sure it's screwed up to the ceiling properly. Okay? Because it could be just as simple as you putting another screw in it and shooting it up to the top.
Hey Jim, I have
Yes.
a question. Let's say you do all that,
Uh-huh.
okay, and it still leaks.
Uh-huh.
Where else could it leak from?
The coils are dirty.
From the blower.
Okay, so
Let's say you
this
do all
is,
that, you even take it apart and you clean it, and it's still causing.
so when you say take it apart, how do you mean take it apart?
Like you take the pan, you remove
Okay.
the pan off, you know,
Okay.
so you can.
Here's what I see a lot of. Guys who will buy pans and they'll replace the pan, or they'll decide that they want to take the pan down, okay? So whenever you take this pan down, this pan is up against the coil that's on the inside here. It's up against, like here's the coil and the pan's up against it on the bottom. So whenever they put this pan back, they don't strap it up good and tight to the coil. So what happens is when it's not good and tight, if this is the pan and it's full of water, and if you get this up just a little bit, all the water that's going in there that the fan blows across hits the coil, goes, air takes the path of least resistance. If it don't, I mean, why go through the coil if I can go around you, right? So it goes underneath and it blows the water out, and it blows the water over into your plenum. So now that you've said that, I'm going to bring up something else. I see a lot of pans being replaced that they're using duck straps, tie straps, zip ties, the big zip ties, and they're strapping it to the copper where your copper goes in and out, and they're holding them up with that. They're holding them up with the copper or anything. When these pans are strapped up, do you guys know what plumber strap is?
Yes, that's what we use, and we screw it to where the.
You screw it to here, and that way it sucks it up good and tight. Okay, so you asked me now, you did all of that, and it's still leaking.
Yes, where else could it leak from?
So let's start back at the beginning. There's only three things. You either don't have it pulled up tight here, okay? You either don't have it pulled up tight here, or you haven't cleaned these out good. That's it. That's the only three things it can be. There's no sense of over there fighting.
Or the insulation inside the pan is already worn out and it leaks through the cracks on the corners.
Well, yeah, you could leak through the corners here. Yeah, it could do that. I mean, if you're leaking, that's a completely different situation. You're not talking about the pan being rusted. If the pan's gone, the pan's gone.
Is it possible to leak from like the back of that where all the
This side where the air's coming through, and then into the out the
pushes
vent.
through? Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly, more than likely, that's what's happening, is that this coil is so stopped up. So, did you not take that loose for me, Perry?
To all the fan.
One thing to remember, if you guys are changing out fur downs, there's a screw right here in the top. Don't put it back in there. Because if you ever have to change out the fan motor, you're never going to get it out.
You can't put it back
Okay.
anyway.
This says, so if y'all can read, it says shipping screw removed before installing unit, okay? I went in there and guys have put them back and I'm like, no, don't do that.
Some of these, you barely can reach them and not when
Yeah,
it's up there.
already. Yeah.
I was gonna say something.
Yes.
This drip pan is nice, smooth. The drip pans here are double, and they are very, very rusty.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you get down to changing out a drip pan, you just got to change one out.
They are. I mean, they're 20 years old.
Huh?
They're 20 years old. About that. This here.
You got 20,
Yeah.
I got 30.
So.
Yeah, so typically, most of our properties are going to have some older units on them. We need to be taking care of them. You know what I mean? I mean, if you get to a drain pan that's got to be changed out, change it out. Because if not, what's going to happen? You're going to get called back, and then you're going to get called back again and again. Okay, so this is what you were talking about, Javier. The air blows through here right across the heating coils.
Yeah.
So if the coil inside here that you can see is completely stopped up, the air is going to go down and go around and go underneath the coil. So we got to make sure this stuff's cleaned up. These are the hardest units that there is to clean, because you can't, if you're going to pull, one thing, if you're going to pull this whole thing down and out, you may as well change it out if it's all, you
Usually
know.
I
So they're
just take
very
this
hard
part
to
off.
clean. Do what?
Just the casing with the was the element. I usually take that off and clean the
It
coils.
still unscrews off there. So you take these two screws here out,
3 screws and 3 screws.
here,
Yeah.
and this will come off, and then you can set the element aside,
Yeah.
which requires unwiring, you know, of your high
Cut the 240.
voltage. It's just your high voltage, though. You can unwire that. Okay. Anything else? No. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, if you go over there and you rot it out and it's screwed up and you're still getting water coming out of it, you've evidently not cleaned it good enough the first time. Okay, either that or it's unlevel. I know you guys get in a hurry. You go over there and you want to just take your shot back and you suck it out on this end, you shuck it out on this end, you fill the work order out and you're gone, and you do
Yeah,
another
can't
one.
do that.
We have, the
Here.
reason I asked
They
is
will
I
call
have
back.
an apartment
Call back.
They
right
will
now,
call back.
1620, that, you know, me and Chris took it apart, we cleaned it, but it's still, it looks like it's leaking from like the back of it. You know, where
Where the
vent-
plenum is, this side, where the air comes out.
and it has that big old tube that connects to it,
Mhm.
and it looks like it's leaking from that. So how would you fix that part? By just cleaning that?
Well, it's either blowing underneath here, or this is not pushed up good. One of the two. I mean, this is what you have to think about, and use your head and think that there's no way water can get out of here. There's only one way it can. It's either coming up over the top, and why is it coming over the top? And the only reasons for that is the dirty coil or the pan's not properly positioned. It's the only reason it can do that. There is another reason that it can do that you might be missing. So let's say we have a low refrigerant. What happens? This thing freezes completely up, right?
Yeah.
And when it freezes completely up, some residents have gotten smart enough over the years and have lived in apartments long enough that they know, well, it was cooling and now it's not. It must be froze up because they've heard it before. They turn it off and they leave the fan going and they thaw it out. Okay. So maybe in your case, I don't know, it could be that when this makes a solid block of ice and this starts thawing out, that might be the reason it's getting in there. It might not have anything to do with this. It could be as simple as a low charge and it's freezing up. So the question might be to ask the resident, you know, have you been turning your unit off and on, you know, in order to thaw it out, if that's what's happening. So you need to think about everything that could be happening as well. You know, because like I said, you'll get residents that's they'll call and they'll say, you know, my air conditioner's not cooling, and they're mad. And you get over there and they just don't have it on cool. All they have it is an on fan on. You know, I had a lady one time in Lufkin. Her name was Mrs. Boone, and she had lived at that property for 25 years. And she said her air conditioning wasn't working. And so I went over there and she had it set on 78 degrees. And it was 78 degrees in her apartment. And I said, Miss Boone, I said, you're going to have to turn your air down. And she goes, can't do it. My electric bill will be too high. So how do you fix that?
You don't.
You don't. Well, you fix it by sitting down and visiting for about 15 minutes and explaining to her that, well, let's put it on 76 and let's try that and see how that works for you. Okay, but I know my electric bill is going to be high. I said, yeah, Miss Boone, but it's not going to get no cooler until we turn it down. So let's just go down like 2 degrees. You know, I'm not telling you to put it on 72, put it on 76. Next day I got a call. Jimmy, my air conditioner's working great. 76 is good. It's nice and cool in here and everything's fine. So sometimes taking the time to talk to people and not seeming like you're in such a hurry.
Okay.
Talk to them, visit with them, let them get to know you, you get to know them. Because the last thing they want to do is, yeah, some guy come up here, he was here for 5 minutes and left. Okay, well, who's some guy? I mean, if you left that impression on them to start with, some guy, I mean, they're probably already mad anyway after you left. So, create that rapport with them and visit with them and get to know them when they have a situation, because I can guarantee you every single one of you, if you were sitting in your apartment or if you were at home and your air conditioner was out, you would feel the same way that they did, especially, they pay us to take care of them and it's our responsibility, to do it.